for the year, and we just want to welcome everyone to our last meeting for the year. And usually what we do at the start of the meeting like this, we'll welcome any new members that we have. But I don't see that we have any new member on here yet. But as we go on, if we have any new members, for time's sake, we'll just have them drop their name in the comment section, like where they're from, the city they're from, and the reason they joined LadiesArise, and also what they hope to gain from joining this community as well. All right, so kicking off here, we don't have any new comers, and I think Anita, you already welcomed our guests, so I'll just go quickly to the icebreaker then, or do you want to formally welcome them again, or just go in straight?
Yes, so let me just formally welcome them. So thank you once again for being here. So I'll start with sorry, I have to remember where I'm from. So pardon me when I put the prefix before your name. I'll start with Stataya. Stataya Oni she's an engineer by background in her field. She's a mom of three amazing kids, two of whom I personally have the honor and privilege of playing a very tiny role in their lives. Probably not the one they expect about, but of also teaching and working with. Um, and I want to just say this. I know you both asked if I wanted to send bios, and I said no because right now the conversation is really just focusing on who you are as mothers, and I just want to say something very briefly to that to just help us understand who we're dealing with. So for Satayoni, I know that watching her children, I think I've known you since you moved over here to Canada, and just in that time, and even working with your kids and watching them, I've just really honestly been amazed by how confident they are, how confident they sound. I've observed a lot, sometimes in our little space where like, yeah, I would like to be like this person when it comes to this or that. And I'm honored, and I'm not saying this just because you're here, but I'm honored to say that you and your husband are one of those people that when it comes to parenting, we look at and we're like, yeah, I don't know what they did, how they did it, but I would love to learn what they did because they did something right and they're doing something right. So thank you. And I just want to put that out there. And to Remy Oshibogun, thank you for being here. And so Remy also has three amazing children, again, two of whom I have the honor and privilege of teaching. Looking forward to the third one. Um, and for me, just watching you deal with your kids, honestly, it amazes me every time, especially at church, I see you or your husband, your daddy's kids are always there. Sometimes I even almost feel bad for them, but at the same time, I envy it because I'm like, how you get them to be there? If it's prayer, they're participating. Whatever it is, they're there. And for me, it's amazing to see because I've watched you, just give to your children real life and carrying them along in the things that you're doing. And that's something that I know that kids typically don't go to those things peacefully. They're probably kicking and screaming, but then they show up. It's sticking to it. And even in the book already, there's a part where it talks about you have to stick to your disciplines and what you need to do, right? And so just watching that really, it's something that I've enjoyed watching you do. So thank you both once again for being here. I should mention both of their children. The ones that I work with are teenagers, so they have teenage kids, the fun age that people don't seem to like, but some of us we love. That's where we love kids the most, that teenage. So thank you for being here. And for the rest of us, this is a note that somebody is watching you, just in case. You never know who is watching you and thinking, I should do that. No, I should never do that. So thank you. And over to you, Tayo.
All right, thanks again, Anita, and welcome our guest speaker again. I do see we had two people joined us just while we were going, and I know one of them is my husband. I know it's supposed to be a LadiesArise group, but he wanted to just join in on the conversation, and so yeah, he's listening as we speak. And
Okay.
Alexandra also joined in as well. So Alexandra, if you don't mind, just leave your we'd just like you to chat in the chat box there. Tell us why you joined, what you're hoping to expect from this as well. All right, so kicking off, we'll just do a quick icebreaker, and this is just to ease us into the conversation as we go. And I'm just going to go in the order of my list here, and I'll be calling names. It's just one question, so it shouldn't take long. The question I have here for us is, if there was one mommy duty that you would never have to do again, what would it be? Yeah, few seconds, think about it, and then I'll start calling names. If there was one mommy duty that you'd never have to do again, what would it be? Anita, you're top on my list, so go.
All right. One mommy duty. Uh, that's a tough one. Oh, no, 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 no. Now that I remember, it's not so tough. Expressing for breast milk. Yeah, I will. That thing
Yeah.
is messy. It is messy. Never doing that.
I never thought of that, but yeah, I didn't really have challenges expressing, so maybe that's why I never thought of it. But
Like
yeah,
having to use the pump, like
the
use the
pump.
breast pump. Yeah,
Oh, okay, I
yeah.
see. Okay, good to know. Fatima, you're next on the list.
Organizing the children's room.
Organizing the children's room.
I don't like it. I don't like it. Like I had to like recently, right now, I'm on Google trying to like look for hacks on how to do it and all that. Like sometimes it's kind of stressful for me, because all I want is I want the house to be clean and everything, but then it's not.
I can perfectly understand and relate with you. And I'll just read this quickly. Alexandra said she joined because she's a parent of 2 toddlers and she looks forward to tapping some wisdom from our big moms. Thanks again for joining, Alexandra. And so you're next on the list though, Alexandra. Can you tell us one mommy duty that you'd never have to do again? What would it be? If there was one, what would it be?
Sincerely, it's a really difficult one, especially at this moment. What I would say is going with what Fatima just said, like not stressing myself about ensuring that everything is perfect, because I know that's one thing that I have always struggled with, and it just gets me nowhere. So that's just something that I feel that I would not do again.
All right, good to hear from you. And again, perfectly relate with having to, tidy up after them. But I guess as we go on in this book, hopefully we can learn some tips on how to, delegate them and ask them, on taking responsibility for their actions. All right, Edith, you're next on the list. Also just to say, I know some of us here are not moms yet, but still the question is open to everyone, and hopefully we are hoping to be mothers someday, and we can also learn from our moms here. And you can also, like, I even feel like you're at more at an advantage because now you get to learn before you actually have yours. So don't think or say, oh, I'm not a mom yet, so there's nothing I can contribute. You do. So Edith, over to you. If there was one mommy duty that you would never have to do again, and if you haven't done it before, like, if there's one mommy duty that you're not looking forward to do, what do you think it would be? So Edith, you're next on the list, please. Hello, Edith? Oh, okay.
Yes,
I
you can.
can.
It's just a little faint.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I was saying I appreciate your comment. Yeah, so
We really can't hear you that clearly, though. Okay, maybe we'll come back to Edith. We really can't hear her now. I think A is Sister Bossede. Thanks for joining. We're just doing a quick icebreaker here. And the question was, if there's one mommy duty that you'd never have to do again, what would it be? And you're next on the list, so we'll just have you go on. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was distracted. What was the question?
If there was one mommy duty that you would never have to do again, what would it be?
That's a hard one.
I know.
What's mommy duty? Yeah, that's kind of hard. I would have said cooking, but I don't want them to eat out. So
Yeah.
I would say getting them ready in the morning. I don't have to do again, that they can do it self-independently without me chasing them and still running late after waking up early.
Right. I agree as well. Yeah, it's a tough one sometimes, and then that gets us screaming and shouting and yelling in the morning. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for that. Funke, you're next on the list. Funke, I don't know if you can hear us, but you're next on the list. Just for time's sake, I'll just keep going. Ife Jesu, you're the next on the list if you want to share.
I'm not yet a mommy, but I know right now I don't like washing plates. I hate it. That's like the worst chore in the world. And then also I think the other thing I feel like I would really struggle with is trying to come up with what food to actually cook. Like cooking it is no problem. The problem is coming up with what are they supposed to eat now. And like I don't know. I feel like that's something I would also eat. So yeah, those two for sure.
Yeah, I feel like that's a challenge for most of us, just sitting to think of what we're going to make. I feel like, yeah, that's a lot of work. So yeah, I do agree. Who is next here? Auntie Remy, you're next on the list. So over to you.
Okay, in benefit of hindsight, there's a whole lot actually, but I'm gonna just stay with one. I think cleaning up after them, especially during potty training, while I'm potty training them. No, that's that.
Yeah.
I should have gone with that one too. Yeah.
You're done, right? Exactly. She's done with that. All right. Auntie Tayo, you're next.
Okay, thank you for that question. It's kind of very difficult to answer that question, right?
Yeah.
At the top of my mind, maybe I would say if it's considered as a duty, giving birth, because I know the other duties, even when a grandmother, I'm looking forward to doing them. So I would just say maybe giving birth. Yeah, I don't think I want to go through that process
that
again.
experience
as much
again.
as I love to take care of kids, or as much as I love kids.
Yeah, and I totally agree too. Giving birth is not fun, but yeah, we thank God. All right. Funke, we'll go back to you now.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry. Okay. So the one activity I think will be organizing my daughter's room. Same as I'm not a fan of laundry, so extra laundry. I'm not a fan
Extra
of
laundry. I agree. And I'm relating with a lot of what everyone has said here as well. Precious, I think you're the last on our list. You just joined in, so welcome. We're just doing an icebreaker, and the question is, if there was one mommy duty that you would never have to do again, what would it be? And for those of us that don't have children yet, what is one mommy duty you're not looking forward to do if there was one?
I'm not a mom yet. Well, hopefully soon by God's grace. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear
you.
you.
Hear me? Okay. Yeah. So I think for me it will be cleaning. I actually just hate cleaning. Like it's not my thing. And also I think them crying and me not knowing why they are crying. I remember having to take care of somebody's SS child and it was like 2 days old. She was literally just crying. I didn't know what to do. I was like, what's going on? They're not talking back, so I don't know how to help them. And we're just like during that, I was like crying. We're crying together because I was like, I don't know what I think that's something that maybe just in a place where I don't know what's going on with them. I can't help them because they're not talking back and all that. So yeah.
All All right, thank you very much for that input. So I see Anita. Okay. I'm gonna go now. I feel like we've all shared a lot and I resonate with most of them, but I'm just gonna say something different because yeah, the cleaning and all of that, I agree, and I also agree with not wanting to give that process of childbirth. And I think at this point I'm done. So yeah. All right. So I just want to share mine, and I'll say I think for me, one duty that I would never want to do again is having to wake up in between at night to breastfeed. That one for me, and the only reason behind that is I'm a very light sleeper. Once I'm up and up, I find it very difficult to go back to sleep. So that's one duty I don't want to look forward to doing again, hopefully. Well, thank you everyone again. So we'll just go in quickly into what we have for the day. Thanks for all your contributions here. And next we have on our list here is just a brief synopsis of the book. Do we have anyone that wants to share? And if we don't have any, I can quickly just do a rundown of what the book is about. And for those of us that don't know, the book of the month that we're talking about is Love and Respect in the Family. So if there's anyone that wants to volunteer and just do a quick 5-minute synopsis of what the book is about, would appreciate that. Any volunteers? And if there's none for time's sake, I can quickly just do a rundown. Any volunteers? Okay, I'll just do a quick rundown, and if anyone wants to add anything, feel free to go, and then we'll hand over to our panels to take over guests. Sorry. All right. So, like I said, the book of the month is what that we read is Love and Respect in the Family, and the book was divided into various parts. And I just wrote down a few points that resonated with me, and that's what I'm going to share. And like I said, if anyone has something, they can jump in or just type in the chat box. The beginning of the book, it talked about something called the family crazy cycle. And basically, just defined it as without love, a child reacts, and without respect, a parent reacts as well. So if you want to break that down, so basically it's saying when a child feels unloved, the child reacts in ways that feels disrespectful because that child doesn't feel loved. So they act in a way that we think is disrespectful. And to a parent, when we feel disrespected, then we tend to react in ways that feels annoying to the child. And this cycle just goes on and it spirals, and then we are yelling. The child feels like, oh, mommy doesn't love me. And mommy is like, oh, this child does not respect me. And then it just spirals down from there. So you went down to talk about when this cycle begins. There are 3 questions we can ask ourselves to actually see, okay, what's going on here? And the first question is that child actually feeling unloved? The second question he said is, am I actually feeling disrespectful? And if so, he said, how will I parent God's way, regardless of how the child is feeling or how I am feeling, right? And then he went down further in the book to talk about how to decode that family crazy cycle when it goes on. How do you know, okay, this is a phase we are in, this is what is happening right now. He says, so stop and recognize that the family's crazy cycle has started. So basically put yourself in the child's shoes. Is that child actually being disrespectful? Are they actually feeling unloved, or are they just acting their age, right? Because sometimes we expect these children to act as adults, but they are kids and they're only acting out as kids. And we want them to act matured. So we feel like, oh, this child is not obeying me, but they're honestly just being children. They're actually, if we really calm down and take a look, they're actually not being disrespectful to us. They're only acting out their age. So that's the phase of you actually going ahead to decode. And if truly the child is actually being disrespectful, then it talks about discipline further in the book and following through. Like if you set a consequence for if a child does this, follow through. Don't say, oh, I'm gonna, today you say, okay, you face the wall, and then tomorrow the child does the same thing and you do nothing. They're not going to obey you. They feel like, oh, this parent, this mommy or this daddy is not actually serious about what they're saying. So if you lay a consequence, always follow through whatever it is that you've set down as rules. And also, he went about talking about in the heat, when you recognize that this family crazy cycle has started, don't yell. And I know it's very difficult for us, and me, and it's very difficult. Do not yell at the child for yelling. Your child is yelling and you're yelling, stop yelling. No, it's not going to work because you're trying to tell them to stop yelling and you are yelling as well. They learn from us, right? Do not explode at anger in your children. If you're angry, just maybe take a chill and then go back and revisit it. But some of us, we like, I want to deal with it now. But in that heat, we tend to act out of anger, not out of love, right? And it says, do not deprive your child of love as well. And then I'm just going to give you a brief summary because of time's sake here. And then now, how do you stop that family? It talks about how you can stop this cycle. So once you've decoded it, now you have to diffuse the cycle, right? And it talks about 5 steps on how to diffuse it. Like we can all, this is just someone's experience and what they've gone through. So it's just something we can learn from. We can also have ours as well, but it's just like a guide for us. It says calling out a timeout. If it's appropriate for the child, you can call out a timeout. Do not automatically assume the child is actually disrespecting you, right? Have a conversation and find out. They might actually not be disrespecting you. Teach the family cycle 101, like just that family crazy cycle, just teaching them about it, asking them on ideas on how we can actually stop this. So, hey, you call your kids, recognize this is going on, ask for their input. How do you think we can stop this? Was one of the ways. And then it says, reassure your child of your love. And this is something our children always want to hear from us, and also allow room for imperfection. No one is perfect, right? And then the other step of the book talks about how you can family energizing cycle. And this was where the book actually focused on. There was an acronym for it, and it was called GUIDES, GUIDES, I believe. And it's just talking about how you can parent in God's way. So the G was giving basic needs to the child. So we brought them into this world. God has used us as vessels, right? So it's our responsibility to provide basic needs for them. And then U was understanding the child so that you do not provoke the child. And that's in the Bible as well. So understanding your child so you do not provoke them. And then I was instruct your child so that you can know how to apply God's wisdom. So we're giving them daily instructions and guidance on how we can guide them. And then D was discipline, so that your child can correct their poor choices. And in that discipline, it had 3 C's. You confront them, you correct them, and you comfort them. And we do all these in love. Never discipline in anger. I said that before. Always reflect in love. Create rules that are clear and concise to your kids, so that when you're and also set when you're disciplining them, they know what the reason. You don't just say, oh, go face the wall. Why are you facing the wall? There should be a reason, so they know why they are doing that. And then it says the instruction must always precede the discipline. You don't discipline a child if you've not given them instruction ahead of time. That would be like a punishment, because they don't even know what they did. If you never told them, if you do this, this is what the consequence is going to be, right? And then the E, encourage your child so that they can develop God-given gifts. And S is supplicate. So supplicate in prayer so that your child can experience and ask God's truth. And then further down in the book, it talks about teamwork. So working as a team. And here I was talking about parents working as a team. So you don't have a good cop, you don't have a bad cop. So for example, if you're agreeing that this is what the consequence would be for a child, you both agree as a family, you and your spouse. You don't say, oh, mommy will not say this and then daddy says this. Let them see you work together as a team. And then the final, towards the end of the book, it talks about something being, my response is my responsibility. So it doesn't matter how a child acts, how you respond is your responsibility. There's one thing you're in control of, and that is you. So we cannot say my child is pushing me or my child is making me act this way. Your child is only revealing those things in you. They are actually not making you act that way, because you have a choice to act. And I think that was what actually struck me most in the book. We all have choices. As much as they get on they throw tantrums and we are upset and all of that, we still have that choice and we are responsible for our actions. And finally, talked about legacy. What legacy do you want to leave for your children? If anybody wants to add in, but that's like a brief summary for me from the book. So I will pass over to Anita now to lead us into our conversations, and then we'll go from there. We'll refer to the book every now and then if we have questions as well. And if anybody has questions in the house as well, we can just type it in the chat box as well. Thank you. Anita.
Awesome. Thank you. I honestly don't think I would have been able to keep that summary as well as she did. So thank you. Really, if you haven't read the book, honestly, I strongly recommend, because for me, going through this book, it uncovers some of my blind spots in my parenting journey. Honestly, it also helps me see, certain areas that I feel like my parents may have make their own errors, and how that has impacted me, and how I'm probably carrying that on to parenting my own children. So we're going to infuse the book conversations with our guests, and also some questions that came in when we're collecting questions from people. So I want to ask our guests, and I'll start with Sarami, to say you've heard the summary of the book and everything, right? The concept of the family crazy cycle. How would you say? Have you? Would you say you've seen that happen in your own relationship with your children, and what has that looked like for you?
Ah, yes, I would say yes, it has happened, and not once, not twice. It has played out several times actually, and like a lot of times. And most of the time, what usually would have happened, that is, I can think of a scenario, a recent one with Mayok, that's my teenage son, where I had raised my voice really. He had done something that I didn't like, and I was trying to correct him. But in trying to correct him, that you don't do that. I had raised my, and then he raised his voice back at me, and I had to ask him, why are you raising your voice? I'm your momo. I like, it was almost getting into like a um fight of words. Like he was talking back, but my husband was hearing us. He just called him like, you should just leave. So as me, he wasn't at home, I'm sure we would have a shouting match of some sort. So that's a classic example, and it has happened not more than once actually. So yes, it is true. It happens really. Sure.
Okay. All right. And the reason I'm asking this question first is I want us to all, this is a safe space, by the way. So I want us to all just get into the comfort of knowing that, sometimes we're stuck in our head thinking we're the
Mhm.
only ones that are this or that. I was still telling someone yesterday how I had a bit of a meltdown because my daughter had asked me to help her with something and I didn't. And then she went and figured it out on her own. And I started feeling like, oh my God, I'm such a terrible parent. you know, so we all have those moments. I want everyone to feel comfortable knowing that look, nobody has the perfect answers. All
Mhm.
right. We're all in this together, but the little we've each learned in our journey, we just want to share to help others. Every time
Yeah.
I hear concerns like, oh, nobody told me this was parenting was going to be this hard or pregnancy was going to be this, it breaks my heart. And for me too, it's that nobody told me. So the little I've learned, how can I use it to help others coming? So Statayo, family crazy cycle. How have you seen that play out? Has it played out in your own family as well? And how has it? Just give us one quick example.
Okay, thank you very much. That has really played out in my family, especially now that I have two teenagers, and the other one is even tending to become a teenager, at least in some years to come. So obviously, I'm kind of dealing with, I can't call them adults, but I can say they are not children any longer, right? So at this point in time, to be sincere, that teamwork is very important. And I, from upbringing, the word is never, I've never seen my mom disrespect my dad. My mom is a doctor. You can imagine, not doctor as in a medical doctor, but she has a PhD degree in child education. So I've never, and since before I was even born, my dad was already a doctor in an educational side. I've never seen her abuse my dad in front of me. And I know the teamwork is what came into play. Fortunately for me, because my husband, that's Benga, is actually a classmate. We're kind of, he's just older than me with 3 months. So I knew him to be a friend, right? In fact, I can actually say it was my mom that like kind of like encouraged me to go into that relationship because it was my first love and it was also the person I got married to. Because initially I was like, he's my mate. How can I marry my mate? 3 months older than me. So we're more like a friend. So she, because she's a counselor by profession, she actually told me, don't worry, Tayo, go ahead. Age doesn't come with, it's actually maturity that kind of makes sense. So forget whether it's your mate, just think about the age. So as a team, Virtue Love, I was once a friend before I became a wife and a lover. So that kind of helped us because he's my friend. And one thing I don't do, because when you see the kind of family you came up with, I wanted my family to even be like that or even better. So one thing I did was I said I would never disrespect this guy, which has been happening up to date. We're more like friends. So even if we don't agree, because the kid sees us, they look onto us, right? I make sure I stick to that word. And that way, even if we don't agree on some things, we work as a team. And that kind of guides us in helping out the kids too. Because at times when you tell kids, don't do this, you know, don't do this, but do you do it? You understand? We're so good at saying, don't do this, but do we do it? Because a child actually not don't say practice what I say. They actually practice what you do. So that kind of helped me. So I really love this way this love and respect was broken down, because I can actually see a lot of this playing a role in my family too. So let's stop for now. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The nuggets are starting to drop already. You know, if you're telling them don't do this, you yourself don't do it. All right. Don't be a signpost. Do as I say, but not as I do. I don't know how many of us heard that growing up, and I heard that a lot. And all it did for me was I can't wait to be an adult so I can do whatever I please and nobody can tell me otherwise. So I can do whatever I want. That's all that taught me. Anyway, thank you so much, man. Thank you so much for sharing. All right, so one question. Can you just, tell us, we all have our moment. We've talked about things that if we could not do anymore as mothers, we'd probably not touch with a 10-foot pole anymore. But we all have those moments where we come into parenting and motherhood. And it's like, oh wow, nobody told me this one was like this. What has been the most shocking piece of stepping into being a parent for you? I don't know if the question makes sense. Like the one thing you wish that, okay, yeah, that's a good way to phrase it. The one thing you wish that somebody had told you before you became a parent, and what has that looked like at, maybe babyhood, toddler age, and now teenagers? Sata, you can start for this one.
Is that for me? Is the question for me? Okay. Can you hear me? No, I can't hear
Yes,
Anita. Okay.
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Okay. Thank you. So, first thing at the back of my mind, being a mother, for me, it was kind of something I was really looking forward to. I remember then, even before I gave birth, right? I've actually arranged the child's room. You know, my cot was set, everything was set. I was just like maybe some few days to delivery or few weeks to delivery. In fact, the room was set like 2 months to delivery. All it came to my mom and my husband was, God, please, we just pray this child, nothing happens to that child. Because, for example, when you're already expectant and next thing something happened, that can actually make you go, you know. So I've been looking forward to that. So
Okay. Am I the only one seeing her frozen up?
No, I was gonna ask, it's just my network as well, because that time zone.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. We'll give her, I think she dropped off. We'll give her time to reconnect. So, Sarami, do you want to go ahead and answer the question as well?
yeah, can you hear me?
Alternatively,
Okay.
oh, okay. Welcome back, man. Yes, we
Yeah,
can hear
sorry,
you.
I don't know what happened. Yeah. So so it's something that I was actually looking forward to. So there were a lot of there was a career I was facing, and also there was a husband to take care of. But most of the time, back home in Nigeria, it was as if the rules were defined. This is for the mother, this is for the husband, and you just have to cook. After 3 months, I had to go back to work. Right, that was where the major thing started. But fortunately for me, I actually took in a help then. Um, she was kind of like a teenager. She was just like a teenager. I took her in. My husband was in Lagos, so we're not even together. He was working in Lagos, I was in Ibadan. So it was like leaving a little child with a teenager that would be like 13, 14. But the good thing was, when I had the help, she was more like a daughter to me. That was one thing. That was where I learned the habit of your help must be like your child. So I took my helping like a child. So the house was not so far from my office, and at times I work, very late in the night because of the kind of work I could be called upon because I was an engineer then. So unfortunately, again, I had like a company car always taking me to wherever I want to go. So I always gave her a phone in case of anything, just give me a call. So she calls me, I come home, I rush home, I do anything and come back. So it was kind of seamless for me. And I didn't have a sick child. So that stage was kind of easy for me. But at the same time, there are challenges because now you have to think of waking up early, cooking, you know. So one thing I would just say is that when you have it at the back of your mind that you just have to succeed in this, you just have to. So you always work towards succeeding, no matter how difficult. There are a lot of sacrifices we have to make as a parent. And the good thing was my husband too was kind of there for us. Even though he wasn't with me at that point, he always comes every weekend. In fact, I remember there was a time he got stuck in the road for almost throughout the night. I was just calling me, where are you? You know, those traffic in Lagos that you can actually stay, you know. And after that incident, I just made up my mind that I was going to leave this job so that I can go to Lagos. But fortunately, I got another job and I got, to stay with him in Lagos. So there are a lot of challenges, but I tell you, the only thing that makes you overcome that obstacle is when you set in your mind that no matter what, you're going to succeed at this. And when you look at the gains that comes with it, you will just keep trying your best till you succeed. So for now, I think that's just what I can think about answering that question. Thank you.
Hey, awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, this is the part where, um, if I were anybody who doesn't have a child yet, start claiming for yourself the things you want to claim. Truth be told, there are some people who tend to have things, some of these processes a bit easier. Case in point, pregnancy. Some people would look the same from day one to the end and look the same, even better after the baby comes. Some people, let's just say it's a different story, and you're like, nope, I'm never letting myself get into this again. And some people never dealt with sick children. So start claiming, the one that is, start claiming. But I really like that when you've determined that this phase of life is going to come with its challenges and you go into it, it makes it easier to look for solutions when the challenges come as opposed to just throw your hands up in the air and feel like I can't do this. Honestly, I wish someone had told me that, just make up your mind whatever comes. Because sometimes you can't predict what will come, right? But that's actually even a good advice is just be ready, whatever comes, it's you're determined to make sure that you succeed. Thank you so much for sharing, my Serene.
Okay, so I'm going to come from a different perspective. I wasn't prepared. Um, I usually joke that I don't know. I just had this thought of I was just going to finish school, get married, and start having babies, and I didn't know how it was. Like, as if it was what was drummed. I think it's just the way we were brought up, right? Once you are done with school, the next thing, once you are in a particular your final year, start bringing husband immediately after start having children. Like that was it. And there was no thought of it in my mind. There was nothing like I would even but I didn't even think about it. I just thought it was just going to happen like that. It was just going to be easy peasy, right? But God was kind. God has been kind and good to me actually. God has been really gracious to me. I married my husband to we're friends for I don't know 4 years before, and I didn't even think he was someone I could marry. But thankfully, he was my friend, so I think that made it a whole lot easier. But the part there is when I got married first, I had issues even in my marriage. That's a story for another day. Because like I said, I wasn't prepared. I just knew it was sure going to happen. The only thing I had going into marriage was that book. There's a book that by Pastor Bimbo Dukoya then. It was the only thing I read, and I had constantly been at campground to pray. I had a very good friend there. So those are the things that really helped me in my life. Thank God for those ones. Those were the preparations that were preparing me that I didn't know, as it were. So at the point when I was going to have my baby, I got pregnant immediately. I got married. So for someone who was even prepared, it was instant, and my husband wasn't usually around. But the best part was that my parents were close by, and I think not knowing what to do, didn't show up so much because my parents were close by. My husband wasn't around. He only comes on weekends. So my mom and my dad being really close by actually really helped. So it didn't really show up that I wasn't sure of what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was doing. Now I'm going to speak now in benefit of hindsight. The things I know now that I didn't know then. And I believe someone listening will learn from what I know. Now I know that at the point when I was going to get married, in that instance where we were preparing for our marriage, and while we were thinking about, okay, how many kids do we think we would have? How many boys do we want to have? And all of that. Instead of at the point where we planned it and all of that, we should have been a case of pray about it, right? So I prayed general prayers. Like I said, I had a good friend that ensured that I was in the place of prayer, although I didn't understand why I was praying, what I was praying for. I can't tell you this is what I was, but I knew I was always on campground for all the programs 2 weeks. And I'm sure those prayers are those that what has helped me. So that's why I said God has been good to me. But in hindsight, knowing what I know now, I would advise my younger self, as it were. Um, Going into a marriage, going to bringing up children is not, it's for a purpose. God chose you. He orchestrated so much. I'm not sure if you read Psalm 139, I think it's 139 now. You see all God, as in if you thinking back, God has done so much. He ensured your great grandparents met the grandpa. He has done like since aforetime. He put in so much. He was intentional to ensure that you marry this man you are married now, and to ensure that the children you are betting now are the ones you are betting. So it's not something simple. It's very, very important. It's important, very important. And for you to be betting that child, for the child to be coming to you, there's a reason why, there's a purpose, there's a reason. God knows that you are the one that would bet this child, you are the one that can take care of this child and ensure that he fulfills purpose and bets the legacy and bets heaven on earth like he wants to. He has been planning this since, like before you even knew you were going to come, he has planned you and your child. So in that thought alone, it makes me being a mother even different. Like I now feel bad that I took all those things with levity. I'm not sure if you now this is in benefit of hindsight, and I'm deliberately saying it this way so that someone will listen. So we need to even plan with God, as it were, knowing that I'm going into that marriage. Is this man supposed to be the man I'm even supposed to marry? Let's even start from there. Are we fulfilling purpose together? Am I going to bet the child? Is he the one that would ensure that God's will and purpose is bettered here on earth through me, right? So if that is a yes, okay, so the children I'm going to bet, who are they supposed to be? Now I'm praying those prayers now. I know it's not late. God is merciful, right? But at the point when I was going to do that, I had bet, and at the beginning, I didn't even know it was a thing. I didn't think it was necessary. I didn't think of it as being really, really important. I will tell you that I grew into being a mother, taking my mother role as being more important now. But I didn't think of it then. But it is a very, very important role. It's super, super important. So as you start off, if you still have babies or you are just going to start out, you need to start planning with God, start praying about it. The children are for a reason. It's like, and thankfully we are talking about Christmas and this instance. The birth of Jesus, look at the way it was. It was so the same way our children are like that, right? So there are preparations that should have come in, pray about it. Who is this child supposed to be? Per season, what am I supposed to be doing? What name? All those sort of things. So what I would say is, yes, we don't have all the answers. I didn't know. You don't know what you are supposed to even do. But the first thing I'll say we need to do is even work with God. Let him give you the insights as to what to do part-time, per season, the kind of school, the kind of name, uh, so many things. So I think I would just stop there. Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. As you're talking, and what I'm hearing you say is that lay that good foundation long before you even get into the conversation of the childbirth, is lay that foundation and start that work with God. I remember clearly when after I had my daughter, a friend of mine was due 2 weeks after me. And so she had called to see, babe, how was it like? Is it everything we've always heard it was? And all we've heard really is that it's very painful to push a baby out. I'm like, first of all, I did not even get to the pushing part. Things didn't go out as planned. And that's something I wish someone had told me, was that because I didn't want C-section for the only main reason that I wanted to be able to snap back. And all I know is if you do C-section, you can't do all the belly tying and da 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 da. So as vain as my purpose was, I didn't know that it was waiting for me in front, and things happened, had a near death experience, and eventually, and so I said, look, I don't know how to explain this. All I can tell you is childbirth is more spiritual than anything else. How come nobody told us this? So, but as you're talking, I really just think about that, that experience. And it makes sense, which is that planning with God from even before it happened, so that even when some things now start to play out, you already know, you have an assurance that God has given you long before that situation comes. A lot of us are trying to now get close to God to try and fix our children in the place of prayer. At that point, sometimes you're not even acting from a place of faith, right? So the foundation starts with God from the beginning. And sorry, I saw your hand up. You wanted to add to that? Oh, okay. All right, maybe it was this thing. So thank you so much. Um, Tayo, does anybody have anything or any question they want to ask? I know there's a question in the
I
chat,
think.
and we're gonna take it. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much for those contributions. And like Auntie Remy said, it's never too late, right? If most of us didn't know, like she said, it just happened. Like you get married, you start having kids. It's not too late now to start praying for those things we want to see in them. And for those of us that don't have kids yet, like she said, we can start praying and start planning with God for the things we want to see in them, right? We can only guide them. They still have their choices as well, but we can only hope and pray that they turn out as good people. Um, we did have a link sent out for questions, like a survey, and we had some questions that had come in. But before we go into those questions, I just want to go back up on what Auntie Adremi had said before when we were talking about the family crazy cycle. I mean, she said she had that cycle go on with her son. It's going to bring me to one question here. When I was reading the book, it was something I thought about. It says, the question is, how do you handle the feeling of being a failure when a child is disrespectful continuously? Now you've done all you can do, you've guided them, you've done all you can do, but how do you handle that feeling of being a failure? I know the book had an answer, but I just want us to be more practical here. And if I recall correctly, the book had said something was that no matter what the child does, love them, right? And it can be very difficult in that phase because like you're loving them, you're guiding them, but continuously they're being disrespectful, and you're loving them, but it's difficult, to look past what they're doing to show them love. The book said, go ahead and love them. Like no matter what they do, love them. But and also ask God for help. He's our Father, right? He'll definitely help us. But are there practical ways? Are there things that we can do to, help?
So can I jump in there?
Yes.
And I'm going to come off from that incident that happened actually. Afterwards, after when my husband stepped in and all, I didn't feel good. It wasn't something didn't sit right with me. I didn't like the fact that we almost had a shouting match, right? It didn't speak right and all. So I started doing some thinking, and it turned out that I needed to be a different mother or a different I'm not sure how to put it now. Because of that age that he is at the time, he's now a teenager. He's not. He wasn't 10-year-old anymore. He wasn't in there, and I was trying to talk to him or treat him the way I would have treated his 10-year-old self, right? And at that point, I realized that I needed to be a different mother. I needed to grow. I myself, that's me, the mother. I needed uh, to be different. I needed some growth. I felt I was lacking in something at that point. There would have been, I just knew there was a better way around it. There could have been a better way around it. So in that instance, I made up my mind that I would actually seek to do something better myself. The fact that I was brought up that way, maybe that is where I went back to think, to look or read. I got some resources, I prayed about it, and then I got resources that got pointed out to me. I read a book, and then I think I was on some webinar, some seminar, and somebody specifically spoke about treating teenagers. And the person said something profound, which I think is also in this book. I read several examples from this writer about the fact that every developmental stage for the children, it's different. The way they behave is different. So in that my quest to find myself, I sought to understand the way he was feeling in that instance. and then to understand what I need to be, who I needed to be in that instance as well. I shouldn't need to raise my voice actually to pass my message across. But that was the way I was brought up. That's the only thing I know. But in that point in time, I realized I needed to be different. The shouting won't work with my own, especially not at this age. So it was now me setting out like a task. I needed to be different. And I came up to him afterwards. He came back. We had like a discussion, and I asked all of there's openness with us here. There's openness. We all use the Bible. The Bible is at the base. The same word in the Bible that judges them is the same word that judges us as parents. So they can come back to me and tell me, but the Bible in verse something said X, Y, Z. Why are you doing it? So that's the kind of relationship we keep in house here. So it's the same thing. That's why I try to apply that to the parenting thing as well. That okay. So I called every one of them that what happened just now, I didn't like it. And I'm going to try not to raise my voice on them for a while. So we are going to do a test run for like a week where mommy won't shout. But they need to help me not to shout. And then I co-opted their dad that if truly I succeeded by the end of the week and I did not raise my voice at any one of them, he was going to take me out on some dinner or something. So we were all in. So I co-opted them. They were all going to help mommy ensure that mommy doesn't raise her voice at them. And honestly, you will not believe it. It did. It was magic. I'm not sure what happened. But that week, that conversation alone was a turning point. It was as if every time something was going to, they just tell themselves, mommy is on a quest not to shout. Let's behave ourselves. And at the point when I come to and I'm about to talk, they're like, remember, you are not supposed to shout. So we were helping each other. Then at that instance too, it was easy for them to come open up to me because I had already told them I'm on a quest not to raise my voice. I don't want to shout at anyone. I'm deliberately going to act. And they saw me really working at it. At that point too, they were open enough to come to me to talk about their pain points, how I act sometimes. It was like I opened up a safe space for them to talk. And it changed a whole lot. But it took so much from me. I don't know. I needed to grow. And since then, I can tell you I've been growing. It's an intentional thing. It's not easy, actually. It is very, very hard. It's not easy. But since then, I know what has happened is I'm prepared first. It's like I can tell what would happen first before I'm stepping into the situation. That way I can teach myself how to act. I'm not sure if that's making sense. But it came from a place of trying to analyze it. And I realized I myself as a mother needed to grow. And that came from knowledge and from also as parents, we need to seek knowledge and we need to keep growing. And one of the best ways is this avenue where we are. You need to hear other people's stories. You need to learn from other people. You won't get not every advice there is for you. Not every advice there will work for you and your children because you are your own. However, you just knowing that something like that is possible means that you can easily adapt it to work for you and your child. And I know God would help us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And a few things, if I heard correctly, that you had said was you realizing that you had to take a step back, right? And most of the times, that's something that I feel like we parents should also do. In the heat of that, we just want to act now, but just taking a step back and looking at it from their own perspective. And I think one example in the book was when you had given examples about the different stages of the children. About a teenager was maybe asking the teenager to clean the room and the room wasn't clean. Instead of us going and shouting, why haven't you cleaned the room? Can we even ask why? Like, why didn't you clean your room? Instead of going, you didn't clean the room, I told you to do this, but ask why. There might be a reason why they haven't done what we asked them to do. And like you said, like most of us, we parent from what we were taught, what we have seen. Like most of our parents didn't parent the way we are trying to parent now. So we were raised like the parents that are shouting, like they tell you to do something and they want you to do it right now without even asking why those things haven't been done. But so just be taking a step back and looking at it from their perspective, like why hasn't this thing been done? Like what were the reasons why they haven't done that? And that the other part you had mentioned was being open, being open with your child or with your children, having that conversation. They want to hear us have that conversation and hear us, like they want to know that we understand them, right? We understand what they are going through at that particular phase. So being open enough with them and having that conversation, and also being accountable. Like when we're in the wrong, coming up and say, oh, I'm in the wrong and I do apologize. I am sorry. I feel like they want to hear us say this often. Again, like I said, it's not something most of us grew up hearing from our parents. So it's difficult for us to now go and say, oh, I'm sorry I acted this way. But if we are intentional about these things, I feel it's something that, we'll be able to, and with God's help for sure, we'll be able to handle. Thank you again very much. Our time is running here, so I think we'll just dive into the questions that we have here. And like I said, if we have questions in the house, we'll take a look at them, but I'll just quickly jump into the questions that we have here. The one I have here, it says, is it hard raising kids? What are the skills needed? I feel like this question is broad, because there are different phases than developmental stages that we have for children, right? So is it hard raising kids, and what are the skills needed? So maybe if we just want to talk on some of the phases, like as a child, a young adult, teenagers, or if you want to pick a point, and if you don't necessarily have to talk on all the stages, but if you want to talk about a particular stage, what are the skills needed to raise your child in that stage? Auntie Tayo, or if you want to go.
To that one, right? The question is it hard to kind of train a child?
Yeah.
First of all, for me, like I said, I'm someone that I don't believe something is hard. There might be challenges. So you must have this positive onset from the beginning. Just like you go for an exam, if you believe you are going to pass that exam, no matter what, you are going to pass it. And if you set your mind that, oh, I'm going to fail, you are going to fail. So is it hard? I won't say it's hard, but it might be challenging. It might be demanding. So your own is just to like have this positive attitude towards it from onset. That's the kind of way I've been guided about life, and it kind of works for me. So the reason why I'm saying this, right? Because different stages of life for a child, there are different things you see. When a child is a toddler, when a child becomes a teenager, when they even get married, now you are, away from them. They are men or women of their own home. You, in a way, you are still kind of guiding your child or telling them some information that can help them build their own home. So don't look at it as it's very hard, though there are challenges which you will overcome. For example, when you look at Proverbs 22, verse 6, the Lord states, train a child in the way of the Lord, so that when they are old, they will not depart from it. So when you make God the foundation right from beginning, right, there are some things you need to discuss with those children. As a toddler, they don't really have a mind of their own, right? But one thing I will always tell parents, don't indulge your child. Because the generation I'm seeing nowadays, because I didn't have this when I was younger, now they have money, they have affluence, right? They kind of like, oh, because I didn't have it, I have to give it to that child. That's indulging them. You need to be very careful, because it's going to have a ripple effect on those kids. So different child has different things you need to look at them at. Don't be blinded with their faults. We are kids. I mean, we are parents. We're looking at these kids, and the Lord has already given us, an assignment to train up those kids. It's like, if you really respect God, it's an assignment. You can't fail. It's an assignment. You have to guide those child. Then another thing is, charity begins at home. These kids, they will learn a lot, even when you are not under their care. We send kids to, boarding school. They go to school, right? They have friends that they are playing with. So those foundation, you have to actually give it to them right from when they are even small. Like a lot of us, maybe that we have toddlers, that's a mistake we should not make. I went through it because I know that visuals are kind of very interesting for those kids. At times when we want to do some chores, we want to do some work, we want to have time for ourselves, we push our children towards these visuals. You understand? But you have to be careful, because there might be implication, there might be repercussion when they get addicted, especially when you are not censoring what they are watching. They learn a lot. Even you as an adult, you learn a lot from graphics. Those things stays more than even what you tell them. So you have to guide them and know what they are watching. Is this educative? Is this good for them? You have to, I'm starting from the toddler age, and you have to tell your children some signs, to be able to have that communication skills with you. They must be able to relate with you. Because if you don't give those children that freedom, even right from when they were small, to relate with you, it's going to be a problem. I'll give you a real-time incident that happened to me. And I really thank God I was a sensitive mother. You know, you must be a sensitive mother. You must be sensitive parents. Like my son, when he was a toddler, he was 2 years old, I had helps, that I kind of brought in. And like I said, one thing that was very important, I take my helps as my kids. There are some things that even my kids, when they see it, because it's the way that, we grew up, my mom, we had lots of cousins staying with us, aunties, helps, and I noticed that my mom did not leave the chores to those cousins. We are even doing more than our helps. It was the training. And I saw that thing actually had a good impact on me too. So I was like, okay, let me try and do the same thing to my kids. When I had helps, right, I took them in like children, like they were my children. I tell you, some people, they will even ask me in the office, how come your own helps used to stay? Some will say 6 years, 10 years. I even had a help. It's from my house. She went to get married before I brought another one in. So I told them, are you guys treating them the way me I'm treating them? Because I took my helps as my kids. I don't separate my helps room from my kids' room. It's the truth. They are like my children. In fact, it's more work for me because most of the time I'm someone that is only when I don't really go out like that. But of course, my husband is a very social person. So we always go out for parties. When we go out, the helps follow us like our children. We all go together. At that point, I'm watching my help. I'm watching my children. I don't leave my help to do all the work. To the extent that even when something gets missing on them, I'll tell her, okay, how come I can't find this? Where is it? She won't even notice. It's me that will even be the one telling them. You that you are being paid, you're not even watching them. So it's still your responsibility as a parent to look after those children. Like the real-time scenario I wanted to give to you, there were some things I've already told my child. When Toby was like 2 years plus, this is just known between my family, my husband, my parents, and, at times when they grew up now, I can actually tell people it's something to learn from. The kind of relationship I have with them, communication skills. Toby was the kind of a little tiny baby. So he was 2 years old, but he was very wise. He can talk. There's some things I used to tell him. When this is this, so tell me, I have that kind of conversation with them. So there was one day, because the kind of work I do, Benga will go to work, I will go to work too. So, and she told me, the little one, she told me wasn't born then. It was just Toby. Toby was like 2 years plus. And we left Toby with a new help I just took in when the first one that took care of Nifemi, the one I said, she came in like 14-year-old. She actually went to marry. So we had to get another person in. So when this help came, he was looking at Toby like, he was a small boy. This boy will not say anything. But I was a sensitive mother. That's one thing I need to tell you guys. You must be a sensitive mother. Very sensitive. Because our husband too, they are sensitive, but they might not be like us. It's only women that really prize, that wants to know what is going on. And one day my son told me that, I came back from work and he said, Mommy, Mommy, Auntie wants to put my totolo in you just say my totolo was touching my totolo. This is not that babe him and everything. But obviously the boy knew something he was small, but he told me. Some people would have been like, what is there? What is he saying? You won't listen to that child. And I kind of like, what's going on? I just went to meet her. What's going on? Toby said this. More like the girl now confessed. This is someone who just took him. She confessed and said, he was trying to put my kind of molesting and put his private part in us. You can imagine. If you're not a sensitive mother, you might not be able to pick that. And sincerely, you won't know I didn't chase this help away. She stayed with me. And I know if she remembers me today, she will ever be grateful. I took her in like a child and I kind of advised her, tutored her, mentored her to be a better person. I know a lot of people would have sent her away. They would not have that forgiving mind. And when you send her away, do you know who she will go and molest eventually? It might even be someone that is your relative or someone close to you. You don't know. So I kind of guided her. And when I talk to my colleagues, they were like, why will your help stay? They won't know. It's sacrifice. No matter what. I know some people, when you even treat them like children, they will still misbehave. But some know that you are very sincere. And I tell you, they will ever help you. is the relationship. Go and find out about some helps that kind of misbehaved. At times, it could be the way you are treating them. Someone that knows you treat her like your own child. No, I tell you, a lot of people in the world that happens to. I'm sure pack your things and go is what they will tell you. And I tell you, that incident never repeated itself. My son grew up to be a normal child. And that was the last of it. She still stayed with us for like 3 or 4 years before she left. And that incident never happened again. So at times, we want something. But what are the sacrifices we are doing to achieve that thing? So it's very important. As a teenager, too, like I said, the kids are growing. Like Sister Remy said, there are some things you are doing that you can't do to a teenager. You must be very sensitive. Like my daughter now, we are getting to a state that, she'll be asking why. And my child, I always say something, at times don't let physical look, everything blind you, because there are some kids that you'll be like, oh, everything is going on well for them. Education, they are good, they are this, in this line, they are excellent. When people say they did this, you say, no, it can never be my child. Don't underestimate anything. When people tell you things, be sensitive. That skills is very important. Be sensitive, because you don't know what they saw that you are not seeing, because the child is trying to hide away from you.
Right.
So even me, I don't say because you are this, I would now put 100% trust in you. I watch my kids. I watch their friends. You understand? I ask questions. Communication is very, very, very important. That communication skills is very important. Never indulge your children. Have an active listening ear. You must listen to them. A lot of parents don't listen. That is the issue. You have to listen. Then, most importantly, let them have the fear of the Lord. It is only the fear of the Lord that guides children. It is only the fear of the Lord that guides you, the parent. Because some things they don't do, but you are doing it.
Right.
How much fear of the Lord do you have? Because it is the only thing that can caution any human on earth. You might be a child, you might be a mother, and you are still doing things that is against the will of the Lord, because you don't fear him, you feel nobody's watching. So one thing is, when you bring them up, to be able to have the fear of the Lord. Like them now, to be sincere, my husband is someone that is very friendly. Me, I'm the strict one. And unfortunately, I'm the strict one, but they respect me less. You see, so most of the time when I pick on them, I don't want it to be like mommy is always hammering things. I remember one time when I was telling my first daughter, you are too selfish. I've seen you are very self-centered. I'm seeing that in you. I won't let that blind me. I'm seeing you are self-centered. And initially when I was saying it, my husband was not even paying attention to it. So at some point, I just God gave me that, spirit to be able to kind of calm down. So I wasn't insisting about saying that. I was just like, okay, let me leave her. I won't lie to you. It is even now that it's my husband now saying, and of course, they always listen to him when he says some things too. So my husband, like, your mom has been saying this, and I'm saying it. You understand? One thing is, you like that same thing you said when you were talking about love and respect. It's very important that husband and wife must have one common mouth to say things. Even if you don't agree with your husband, you can go and drag down in your bedroom when they are not there. And unfortunately, I can relate with him like a friend. Even if I don't agree with him or he doesn't, we won't start fighting or anything, in front of the kids. Like I said, one thing, I don't disrespect him, even though I know we're like mates. You understand? I can go and talk that one and make my point in the bedroom, but I don't do it in front of the kids. Yeah. Right? And one thing that we, like the things that maybe I'm weak in, he has that strong point in helping. He has that kind of rapport. Me, I'm not that patient. I'll shout on you and, that is me. I can be very reserved, but when I see things are not going well, I will say it. I'm someone that says my mind, and I will let you know till you get to that point. Because left to me is an assignment given to me by God. Go and check Proverbs 22 verse 6. Eli, everybody knows Eli. Eli failed in his assignment, right? Mm-hmm. So it's kind of, even if you forget whether it is, it's an assignment given to us by God. We can't fail. That's why I always believe in something. Success should be the first thing you even think about. You cannot fail. Yeah. You cannot fail. That's the word. So anyhow you are going to do it, you can, even if the child becomes rebellious, you just have to find a way of making that child go back to normal, because you can't fail. And the child too, you don't expect the child to fail. So work as a team, build the foundation of God. Is very, even when it comes to morning devotion, we do it with the kids, right? And we kind of make it interesting so that, most of the time they're even the ones leading. In fact, to be sincere, they will even be the one to wake up, because me, I can be a lazy person when it comes to praying. They will be the one to remind us. Toby, everybody's giving an assignment. Toby, you will be the one doing this, Nife, you do this. Titomi, you do this. And like I said, every child is different. Just like my little child I'm bringing up now, because of the way where she was born. Then another thing is, like I said, I always say parents always believe you will succeed. Even people that are coming up now, that's in Nigeria, we always believe until your grandmother does this, that's when the baby will come out healthy. No. Everything can, even if grandma is not here, like I have my in-law that just delivered now, nobody is there to take care of that child for us, but the child is healthy. So the point is, don't always put it in mind until they do this for a baby. That's when the baby comes out better. It is not true. You yourself is an assignment given to you. You can do it. God bless us.
Thank you very much, Auntie Tayo. You shared a lot of points there. And if I just do a quick recap from what you have said, first thing is to have a positive attitude and set your mindset that you can never fail in this assignment that God has called you on. Never indulge your kids. Be sensitive. Be very sensitive as a parent. Have a listening ear. Don't just dismiss what they say to you, and have a good relationship with your children so that they can open up and come to you to talk. Treat others the way you would want them to treat you. That's another thing I picked up from there. That's the golden rule. And be willing to sacrifice. Communication, build a communication skill, and above all, have the fear of God. Thank you so much. Auntie Remy, do you just want to shed light as well? We're really running out of time here, but if you do, you have something different, what are some of the skills needed? If you want to share quickly for us, please. Thank you.
So I'm going to emphasize the fact, I'm going to come from that point of what I said earlier about Psalm 139. God was intentional. He knew you can do it. That's why he is giving you this child. So you are the best parent, the best mother, and your husband is the best father for this child. God already knows. He never makes mistakes. So you are the perfect candidate. You are already successful. He has already seen it. He's written it. It's perfect in heaven. So go with that positive mindset, just like Tayo said. You can do it. That is why you have been gifted with this child. So you just need to walk the path and get to help Holy Spirit to help with you. And then coming from that mindset that God was intentional in choosing you, I believe that would guide in all the decisions you take. You would not want to, do it shoddily. Coming from that mindset, that deep understanding that this is not just any kind of anyhow work. You were chosen for a reason. You had to be you. It couldn't have been anyone else. Yes, it must be you. So from that point of view, you already know that you can do it. God doesn't make mistakes. He knew you would do it. You just now need to walk the path. You need to give yourself to growing. We cannot stop growing. You can't say I'm a mother, I'm high up there, and I don't know. You need to keep growing, especially now that we are even in this environment. It's different. And if you're like me, the way we were brought up is totally different from the way we are bringing up this child. And not even because of even the age that we are, all the computer, the IT things and all that. The skills needed is different. So as parents, you need to grow in different times of the child's growth as well. There's a particular part, like as teenagers now, you need to be a mentor as it is. If you don't know what it is, how to do it, go out, go learn, enroll yourself in classes, get books to read. That is the way you need that knowledge. You need that knowledge. With that knowledge comes understanding. That way you know what you need to do. You understand? You have that sensitivity, like you said, the sensitivity as well. But it's important that we work on ourselves too. You cannot give that child what you don't have. Most of the times we are still dealing with some bad growth, bad parenting that we got from our parents, really. And we must make sure we don't pass it on to our child. So it's important that we grow ourselves. And from that point that you've grown, you are easily to impact on the child, because the child is going to learn from you.
Right.
Recently, I was thinking back as to how, despite the fact that I don't know, I wasn't, like I said, it wasn't that I was prepared, but I have had a good marriage, right? And I was thinking, the only thing my mom told me when I was leaving the house was, don't call me. I don't want to hear about you and your husband's business. Imagine that was the only advice she gave me as a bride. However, I did good. So thinking about it, I realized that the reason why the marriage was like is because I've seen my parents. So they didn't come out to tell me this is the way you must do it. This is how things are done. But they've been that example. They've lived it. So my marriage is good because I'm walking in line with the way they were. I've seen my mom being submissive to my dad. They don't lift, they don't shout at each other. She's very respectful. She shares, I think that she gives out, she talks about, she doesn't keep secrets. Do you understand? But she didn't come out openly to tell me this is how you must be a wife. But I'm that way now.
Yeah.
Because they exemplified it. So your children are watching you. Everything you are doing, it's not by what you are telling them to do. If you want them to be to have that fear of the Lord, just emote it, just do it, act it, and they are following you. You are the best, the major influence over your child. So I believe once you are walking in line with God's will, once you are walking in line with how God has showed you to, once you are doing everything positively, your children will turn out very good. Forget how it is that they are at the moment. You just make sure you are towing that line. You are doing the right thing. You are exemplifying the right thing. You are showing them what it is that is important and what's not important. Before you know it, you just see that they are taking the right decision. And they're wondering why. I see you, and they will tell you, Daddy did it this way, so I feel this is. So we need to be that conscious. We need to be deliberate. We have to be intentional. And we have to know that it is a legacy that God has put in our hands. This is generations, right? What you do now affects the future generations that is coming behind. So it is very, very important. And I know if we are in that consciousness, a whole lot of things will line up for us.
Thank you very much. God never make mistakes. And from what I heard you say, we need to grow as parents. If we need to go learn new knowledge, we should go. If there are things that we need to go learn or unlearn, then we should make those efforts to go and do them. We should also live by example, right? These children, they look at us and they do what we do. We should be intentional. Thank you very much. So just going off of that, we had a question that was dropped off in the chat here, and I'll just ask that question here. Edith had asked, what are the gains of having kids / parenting? So if you just want to share quickly, Auntie Remy, what are the gains of having kids / parenting? And I feel like you talked a little bit on them. Yeah.
Briefly, I think the major thing will be that you are co-building with God. I think there is nothing more major than that. You are building with God. You are in God's plan. God has been intentional to make that plan, and He deemed it fit to that you will be a part of that plan. So that's a major thing. You are building a legacy. Yeah, whatever it is you are doing now affects future generations. The fact that you are a good parent now, the fact that you bettered that child now and you instilled that godly fear, the discipline, you gave that love, you fought those battles in prayer on your knees, it ensures that the future generation, your great grandchildren who will come afterwards, just like the way Abraham died now, we are still here, would enjoy from what it is you are doing. So I think look at it from a point of purpose. Parenting is purpose, fulfilling purpose. You are fulfilling purpose as the case may be, right? So you are co-creating with God. You are working in line with God's will and purpose for you. That's what I would say.
Thank you very much. I'll just see if we can quickly go through the questions that we have from the survey. Auntie Tayo, I'm going to direct this question to you. And I feel like you've talked on the B part. I'll just read the question and then if you can answer the A aspect of it. It says, what investment can I make for their future? And these are your children. That's the A part. The B part says, how can I be intentional with always raising them? And I think you answered this part because you had said some things when you spoke last, like making those sacrifices, being sensitive to them, having a positive attitude, the fear of God, communicating, having that relationship with them. So I feel like this answers the B part, but if you can shed more light on the A part, what investments can I make for their future?
Okay. Investment is just you make for their future, right? I believe you should just make them have that fear of the Lord. That's the only thing that will guide anybody's future. I tell you. Because once you've instilled that fear of the Lord in them, even when you are not there, they'll go to university, right? You went to university. Nobody is there to guide you or look after you. Mm-hmm. You look after. Like my parents always say, more money to in Yoruba, that means, in English, that means know the house you're coming from. Mm-hmm. The kind of house I came from, can't even allow that name dragged in the mud. He guided me. And I believe that's what you should tell your children too. Have you had any scandal from your parents? Have you heard any scandal from your dad or your mom, even your grandparents? When you tell them that, have that fear of the Lord instilled in them. Because that's the only thing. I tell you, anybody can do anything. I might be in my house. I might be doing anything. You don't have to know. Do you know what people do on their phones? You don't know. People can pretend. But it's just that fear of the Lord. You don't have to, show yourself. When you have that fear of the Lord in you, people will know you by your fruits. When you instill that discipline into those children, that's the only thing that guides them. Because one day they will leave your house.
Right.
You want them to impact the generation. You want them to impact and work for God. You have to start and make them realize they have to fear the Lord when they're under your care. Because once they leave you, they can do anything. You won't know if they don't want you to know. You won't know. Or unless it gets them in trouble, that's when you know. So make sure once you give them that foundation, make sure that you let them know that the fear of the Lord is there, is the beginning of wisdom. That's the only thing that can guide them in future. And I believe that's the only thing you can actually tell a child, even when a child becomes rebellious. Because, at times, if you don't correct in love, children becomes rebellious.
Right.
Only that fear, you can't teach them. It's only that fear that will bring them back to him. A lot of kids become rebellious just because of the way they were being brought up. Go and find out, even from statistics, all those children that became violent, that became this, it is because of what they saw right from the home front. Go and find out. A child will not just stand on one day and become, fine. I know some people, the parents tried, and the child will still go the way they want to go, like I said. And that's why you have to instill that discipline and the fear of the Lord in them. So that even when you are not there, they can stand on their own. When they are not there, they can pray by themselves. When you are not there, they can do house chores by themselves. They will leave our house now. You to remain you and your husband alone. So how will they do in their own house? Train them to do it. When they've not, like my daughter now, when she wanted to start cooking, I would tell her, come and help me cook. She will always say, she doesn't watch me cook like that, But still, I'll tell her, go and cook. Anyhow you want to do it. The thing is, achieve the result. In fact, I can say she cooks the best jollof rice now. I don't even like cooking. Because I don't even like cooking. She always does the cooking for the jollof and it's always coming out nice. The point is, I made her do it. I still make sure she did it, even if she did not want to learn from me. Because these kids have the way of having their own mind. You have to study and know what works for them. Like my mom, then she'll say, this is the way to sweep. I always disagree. You don't have to sweep like your mother. You can hold the broom anyhow. The only thing is make sure the place is clean. So any method, that different method that works for different kids. You don't have to instill a particular way of doing things. The main thing is, have they done it? Because we are very guilty as parents. Oh, you must do it this, you must hold it this way. No way. The children of this generation, right? They do things the way they want to do. Just make sure they are doing it right and they are consistent in doing it and they are doing it well. That is the most important thing.
Thank you so much.
That really, really take them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I feel like this is something that we've been hearing over and over again, fear of God, which brings me back to an example in the book. And like you rightly said, right? Like the Proverbs 22 verse 6, it's a principle. Train them up in the way they should go. When they grow up, they will not depart from it. It's only a principle. It's only a guide, right? It doesn't mean that they may not deviate from that. But if we lay the good foundation starting now, instilling that fear of God in them, and then with our prayers and our support, hopefully, we pray that they become, good and great children. Thank you so much. I will go over to you now, Auntie Remy, and Anita, feel free to jump in whenever, please. The next question we have here says, what does it mean to be a good mother? How can I be a good mother to my children? What is motherhood? In summary. What is motherhood?
Motherhood is a lot of things because you are wearing a lot of cap actually, and it's a lifetime what's our duty, as the case may be. Um, so I would say, first and foremost, as a mother, you are the channel through which the child came to earth, right? That's sacrosanct. But much more than that, you are the one that the very first sense, the very first voice, the very first example, the major influence, right? That the child knows, not just you, maybe you and your husband, the parents, really, that the child knows. So your role, motherhood is super, super important. I guess I would say that it's major, it's an important task. It's really important, it's good. It's a it's a divine duty, if I can use that word actually. And I would say that to be a good mother, it's like asking, how can I be a good person? How can I be, how can I make heaven? If you're going to, if you understand, because it's a lifetime job. The results will show up like right there, you're very before. As the children grow, you would see the evidence of how you've trained them and all of that. I would say it's not, you do what you need to do. You would instill um those discipline, you put them in the right way, but at the same time, you don't know their heart. You don't have their heart. You don't know. It's like trying to win someone over to Christ, right? You don't have that heart, that their heart. So we need to co-labor with God. We need to co-labor with the Holy Spirit. God, who knows, who understands who these children are, is one that would help us to be that good mother. But from the onset, decide at the beginning that you are going to be the best mother that there is for the child. And that entails so much. That means you are giving yourself into pay attention, to understudy the child, to note what their gifts and their strengths are, right? You'll be discerning. So you are wearing a lot of that. You are monitoring them, you are watching them. Okay, at this time, at this season, I think this child would need this. And most of those don't come by just yourself. You, like I said, you need to be discerning. You need the help of the Holy Spirit to know this is the next place to be. Like things like my child, okay, I can see that he's Andy, maybe he likes tools and all of that. Okay, let me put him in this kind of school, or let me put him in this kind of environment. Let's see how we do. Because you are the mother, you are discerning, you are sensitive, you are watching over him or the child, right? To ensure that he becomes who God has called him to be. So you need to be there, you need to be discerning, you need to be sensitive, you need to watch that child, guard the child jealously, right? Noting the thing that the child needs per time, per season, per age, I don't know, per every time, but you need to be constantly there. Your eyes need to, you must not lose focus. It's an important duty, like I started off again. So coming from that mindset alone, you already know, and it entails so many things. Some of us have even I'm going spiritual now, as the case may be, and I'm so sorry if that's an issue with people. But you know there's some ancestral issues, even generational issues, right? Some things you yourself have come to know, and because you are that mother, you already know that because God chose you for a reason. You already know that whatever it is that you are going through now, you don't want the child to go through it, right? That's part of being mother. So in that instance, you fight on your knees, you pray, you ensure that those causes end up wherever, or the ancestral issues end up maybe with you, like it doesn't pass on to my child, it doesn't pass on to my. That's part of motherhood. That way you keep praying, you stay on your knees, you fight that battle. That's you fighting in hope and in faith and in love, knowing that what I've gone through, what my generation goes through, or it's known in our lineage that this usually happen at a particular age. It must not happen to my child. As a mother, you take it on. You ensure, even as a father, you ensure that okay, it will not. This stops with me. This cycle stops with me. It doesn't go ahead. That's you being a mother. Do you understand? In that wise, you understand what it is you must do part time. It's not an easy thing. There's a whole lot that comes in. And even at times when they are derailing, when you've guided them in the way they should even go. There's no way, like Santayo said, you can't know, you don't know what they are doing. The children, for instance, they go to school, right? You don't know what they do in the whole 8 hours. Like an example, in case my teenager, for instance, Mayamiko, you cannot say what it is that he's doing in school. But because you are in partnership with the Holy Spirit, because you are working in line with God, some things will just jump into your mind. It has happened to me. It happens a lot. And I'm just asking a question out of the blue, and it just feels like it's just telling me what the issue is, really, without me necessarily prodding. And I'm like, okay, assuming I didn't follow. So that's part of being sensitive So your sensitivity is both physical and then spiritual. You must really be sensitive. Sometimes you have prodding to enroll the child in, I don't know, in some particular kind of school, enroll the child in a different kind of place, make sure this child goes in a certain settings. Like an example, case in point, my son is in cadet, for instance, and they had this program that said they must come for flight simulation or something like that. Not everyone attended, but for some reason, there was that prompting in my own heart. My Okum was attending that class. I'm not sure I can explain it now, and probably maybe in the future I would understand why. But he had to be there. Do you understand? So we would be sensitive. We are more, we have spiritual and physical role. We guide them spiritually, guide them physically, and we are co-working with Christ to ensure that they become who they need to be. It might not be that easy. It's you giving up so much. Sometimes you need to give up a whole lot. It will take a whole lot from you. It will take so much from you because you want to be sure that they come out to become who God wants them to be. Because you are coming from that understanding that is an important job. You are growing generations. It's very, very, very important. So that way you give in, you give into the pain. It's not all rosy and right. There are days you cry. Like someone was saying that she handled the baby, Precious is not here now. But even for mothers like me, my very first child, the very first day I went home with him, I cried all night too. So there are times you cry, there'll be pain. But I tell you, there are joys as well. So it's not a walk in the park, and it entails a lot. I don't think anyone can really define it. It's a lifetime definition because at every point in time, you are different things to that child, right? It's a lifetime thing. So I think I'll just end it there. Yeah.
If I can
Awesome.
quickly add to that, I think
Oh, sure. Absolutely. Thank you.
you can talk of love, care, and being a mother hen. Mother hen is someone that protects the child. So you're protecting the child, you are protecting children, not only your child, right? You're protecting someone younger than you, or it could even be an older person. That's what motherhood is. Thank you.
Awesome. When I really think about what you just shared, ma'am, and see Tayo, it reminds me of how people tend to reference the mother hen. I don't know who has ever tried to chase a baby, a chick before. When the mother comes for you, you will know that. So that protection there, it really hits. And as for me, thank you so much. One thing you said that I want to even hone in on, as Mariah says, that know your history, know the negative cycles, and make sure that it stops with you. That's part of motherhood,
Sorry, let
right?
me jump in there. Note the positive too, because
Oh
recently
yeah.
you find out that you have what's that word now, mantles in your lineage. I'm not sure if anybody has. So it's important we actually do know ourselves. Actually, there are some good mantles that you have. You probably just didn't know. Like
Mm-hmm.
recently in hindsight, I found out my mom had something. She never really knew, but because I'm sensitive or I don't know, I'm in that spiritual part as it were. I found out that so it's now you being intentional to pass it on. It's a lineage thing. It's for you guys. God has given so we cannot overshoot the fact you must know. It's more, it's not just you're not just there for a figure, you're a spiritual figure. More, not just physical needs. You care for the spiritual need as well. Sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, no, no, absolutely. No, that's beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And even when I think about that response and tie it back to the question of why we even need to be parents and what you were saying in response to that, it really just even makes more sense because the truth is, it's like building a business. Think about you build a business, right? Part of the legacy is that there's continuity, there's succession, right? Some of us have good values that we've grown up with, and we're trying to be good people in society, partnering with God to fulfill His mandate for our lives. Do we not want to see that continue? Some people seem committed to raising people that become problems to society, either deliberately or by errors of their own doing, right? So if there's something, part of my contribution to the world is that not only am I being a good person and trying to leave a positive footprint on this earth for as long as it lasts, but that I'm choosing to make sure that there's continuity even after I am gone by putting my own children and raising them in that light as well. So there are a lot of mothers in the house. Feel free to jump in at any time. Quite frankly, we're all in this conversation together. And on that note, I see a hand and supposedly I'm going to let you unmute and speak. Thank you. Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Question I have is, how are you able to help your child? And I don't know if your child have ever had to experience bullying at school. Depending on what grade they are, it doesn't matter. How are you able to help your child undo bullying at school, especially with the different instances I've heard whereby the school is not doing enough? And also, how do you ensure that your child is not the bully? Are there practical examples you can give?
Okay. If you can allow me come into that, right? How can you help your child from getting bullied in school? I think the first thing I would say, because at times kids will always be kids. No matter what, there's some things you cannot stop. When they get to school, they might make fun of them about this, about that, especially where we are even a visible minority in this case. So it's bound to happen. So the only thing I'll just tell you, you just have to instill that confidence in your child. I remember, I'll give two examples. The first one being my elder brother. I remember when he was in school back home in Nigeria. This is someone that will be 50 this December. I remember when he was in school back home in Nigeria, they used to make fun of him that he had a big head. And one thing my mom always tells them is that when they make fun of you, you have a big head, right? You know what you tell them? His brain that is inside it, because it was kind of brilliant, So they'll call him in Yoruba, they'll say Olori Baba. Then the boy will answer Opololo Wambe, and that kind of kept him going. When they tell him that, it tells them that, because my mom already told him this is what you should say. That confidence was there and it was very brilliant, right? Now he's a doctor, he has his own hospital abroad. So at times what you tell that child helps a lot. I remember Toby too. Toby was a very small child. Maybe I even spoke about it initially. In fact, I didn't believe Toby could grow to be this. And before we even gave him the name, when we saw it was small, I remember I and my husband, we sat together and I said, let's call him Toby Loba. Oluwa Toby Loba. Oluwa Toby Loba is, when Yoruba say you kind of live to be your name, it's kind of, this is someone that is small, but we called him Toby. If you notice, most people they call Toby, they're kind of on the big side. So it was like, okay, this boy looks small, but I just feel let's call him Oluwa Toby Loba so that you kind of look up to being his name. So at times, things might not look the way you want it, even for that child that is being bullied in school. But you as a parent, when you constantly tell him, before we even came abroad, we're like, fine, you might experience this in school being a visible minority. Set them to know about the expectation and tell them, no matter what, when you are like this, they will always come back to you. Make sure you are doing this in school. Make sure you're on top of your game. Make sure you are doing well. I tell you, even when they see you as a visible minority, they will always come back to you. In fact, the way Toby relates with his principal, I don't know what they call them in what grade that they are in now, you will think they are friends. So you have to instill that into that child. No matter what they say around you, is that positive thing you look up to. Know you are just like kings and queens. Why do kings and queens, at times the way they carry themselves with all pride is because they brought them up that way. They've been telling them, this is who you are. This is who you are. Talk less of your father, God, telling you this is who you are. Imagine when your father, which is God, tells you, Omotayo, you are this. No matter what is happening around you, you don't want to know. You don't want to care whether you are the visible minority. When you keep thinking of what God has promised you, it helps you. It has helped me in life. And I believe when we instill that in our kids, it also helps them. Right? So make sure you are constantly prophesying into their life, telling them this is who you are. Whether they make a fun of you, like me now, like I said, at times they say, oh, the way they say over here, any little thing, when they are saying that you are kind of getting on top, they want to not try and say you have accent. You have accent, but you are bringing results. Who cares? You see what I'm saying? So it's some things we are going to face. We are in their land. But when you start thinking, I'm in your land, right? But I am who I am because I am a child of God. that helps us to kind of overcome any circumstance, any jest, and that confidence will be in you that even anywhere you are, you can talk with authority, right? And with time, they will notice it in you. Then how do we kind of guide against our children being bullied? At times when children bullies other children, go and look at it. It's likely maybe they are seeing their parents doing something. It could be from the way they see their dad talk to their mom. So when you start seeing a child that goes out and bullies, it starts from the home. They might have been bullying their little ones. And you people are not, because I remember I had a friend then when I was in uni, we're kind of close. You know, their brother maybe is just like 2 years, older than her, and other siblings. The gap is not so much. He would just come home into the house. Egbon Jemiwa, bring my food. And I'm like, the way we were brought up, we're 5 siblings. Even our firstborn cannot just say, bring my food or, wash my plate. You have to do it yourself. So at times, you need to watch it, because at times in Yoruba land, we always believe, call this person brother, call this best person auntie, and it kind of gets to the kid's head, and they start behaving like a big man even before they leave the house. But when you kind of make them know that they are siblings, everybody has authority being a child. You understand? Make sure your child, there's none of them bullying over the other one just because he feels I'm older. Toby, I'm older than you. Yes, you are older than Toby, but you have to respect yourself. You don't bully any child. Oh, I'm older than Titomi. You don't bully any other child. Because when you can't control it from home, it's even easier to kind of go start bullying others, especially this land where most of their kids are very fragile. Our kids will just be bullying them. So once you've already instilled that discipline in them, don't go and be fighting in school. This is what happens to someone that fights. Start telling them now, because when it doesn't stop, I tell you, that child is still going to bully the husband. Sorry, or he's still going to bully the wife. You see, women bullies men bullies women. It's vice versa. I don't believe it's only a guy that slaps a wife. There are some wives that slaps their husband. It's possible, because they've started derived from when they were young. It is a true saying, charity begins at home. So you need to watch those kids and make sure you instill that discipline. Let them understand, because you are a man doesn't mean you can't do this, you can't wash plates, you have to do the same thing as the lady is doing. At least we're seeing that happen in this part of the world that we're in. So, and at that point, you instill in them, you can't bully anybody. A child of God does not bully. Because if they don't stop, they will do it in school, they will do it in their own matrimonial home. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Time is really running on us, and we still have some of questions that we haven't even gotten to. But so far, it's really insightful, And thank you for that. Really, charity begins at home. How we respond to them at home, and how we, have those conversations with them at home really matters. Before we move on from that, do you have anything you want to add to that question before we move on to something else? Anything different that you want to add? Or it's just yep, I agree, well said.
Sorry, I was trying to unmute myself. Just to add to that, I would just say both ways, and enforcing their identity in Christ. Like, who are they? That identity of who you are. And like I was saying earlier before, you can't give them a different identity from your own identity. So as a family, we have an identity as it is. I'm a child of God, and it's etched in the Bible. The same rule that guides you are is the same rule that so we are all guided by the same rule and law. The Bible says all the words, every word you speak can be used for or against you. Judgment. It binds me and it binds me. I'm using, that's one of the verses I use for my kids, for instance. Like now, that all the words you say on Judgment Day, it's the same thing for me as well. And then so that identity in the Bible of who God's, what is vice versa, the fact that it's etched in them, it guides the way they will act. So they won't be bullies, right? They will treat others the way they are meant to be treated. And at the same time, it guides how they will react to being bullied. So, but practicality in there will be ensuring that there's communication as well. So that when they come home, they can tell you this happened, then you can guide as to when they go back to school tomorrow, don't do it this way, take this step. And most of those things might not be one size fits all. You need to hear out what the circumstances are, right? But you have to be there to even listen to what the issue is. So the reason why I'm saying it this way is when we first came here to Canada, my kids, they were kind of bullied. You won't say like bully that way. Maybe somebody's touching your hair, asking them why their teeth is somewhat, why is their hair weird, and they come home, they feel somehow. So we have to let them know you are supposed to be here. You are meant to be here. You didn't just carry your background. You are part of them here. So the only reason why I could know is because I sat down to listen to them. So listening would help them as well to get past what it is. And aside that, ensure that their identity, they understand who they are. That identity is etched in Christ. And then it even affects, it trickles to every other thing you're going to be teaching them eventually. I will tell my children, you are in the world, you are not of the world. The fact that everyone else is doing what is there, they are doing, doesn't mean you must do it. The fact that this person has this kind of clothes or does this or doesn't show up, doesn't mean you, what did God say you must do? It's what is your identity? What are the rules that guide us? So ensuring that foundation and being consistent at it would actually cover a whole lot. Bullying, how they act, having that fear of the Lord and everything else. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So reinforcing their identity in Christ. I love that. And listen to them. You know, when my kids, my daughter especially has experienced bullying. My son I'm worried about him being bullied sometimes. So, so I live with both sides where I'm trying to manage one person being at the receiving end and the other one do not do that. And so for me, it's even understanding your children too, right? Understanding who they are. And we tried so many things with my daughter, for instance, speak up, report them, do this, do that. But we noticed that even in that, there were still some semi-fundamental things that seemed to be missing, right? She's naturally more shy and keeps to herself. And kids like that sometimes tend to even be easy praise for bullies. And so knowing that, we had a conversation, haven't done all we have been doing, and of course we're praying, we're reinforcing, all that. We took an additional step. My kids, for instance, now take taekwondo classes, right? And part of that was very intentional to help her. And I've seen a lot of difference even in confidence, knowing that I can defend myself, but I choose not to. And it's something we've always told her actually to say, look, you don't have to respond back the way they try to treat you. This is who you are. And I like the example and tell you about your brother to say if they say this, then respond this way, right? Is teaching them, arming them with the right kinds of responses and right ways to behave. Remember one time she came home very excited. What is it? She said, oh, one girl that always, gets in her face. And she said, I just did this to her. I knew I wasn't going to hurt her or do anything. And she was shocked and she was scared of me. Like, can you imagine? And I said, yeah, that's the truth. And it became a moment to teach. And that's one thing I want to say is listen for moments to reinforce what you've been telling them, right? It became an opportunity to reinforce that concept that, look, the reason people bully sometimes because they are jealous of you, they are scared of you, or they themselves are experiencing bullying and they feel like they need to do that to somebody else and feel more in control. And sometimes you take that power by standing up for yourself, knowing, and so that really just helps. So I don't know if that helps, today with your question, but yeah, I know for me, that's even one way that I've been able to do that. There are a couple questions. I really want us to be out of here. We have 9 minutes and we still have like 4 or 5 questions. But there's one question that I want to quickly ask, and that's because there are a lot of people who, would still have kids going into that toddler age. And that question is, do we have any tips to discipline toddlers? Because teenagers, you can try and have conversations with them. Toddlers, not so much. They don't even, they can't even relate. How do you discipline a toddler?
Of course, it's been long. I had toddlers, but I still have them. Like I said, like a mother will consistently keep, even if it's not your children, you are still mothers to some other people, right? So for me, one thing, because I have a toddler now, maybe my husband's brother's daughter. She's even with us now. She slept in our house today because the mom just put to bed not long ago. So, one thing is discipline toddlers, right? You don't have to indulge them. I keep emphasizing on that Because a lot of us, when we want to discipline toddlers, in a way, we're indulging them. They just say, sit down here, be watching TV. You're indulging them. You have to be very careful. A lot of people do that because that responsibility they are running away from. When you put a child in front of a TV, you find out that you have enough time to do a lot of things. But if you're not careful, you are indulging them. So discipline a toddler, like we say, it's not, all size fits all, because every child, you need to study what gets to that child. You need to be sensitive of how to discipline a child, because what works for A might not work for B. So discipline a child. Try to know what that child likes to do. At that point, it might even be that TV you think, would kind of help you for the child not to make noise. Is the one that will even help you to kind of let him know some, things not to, like you discipline the child. Let me put it that way. It might be a child that likes to watch TV a lot. And you just say, oh, because of this, you are not going to watch this program because you did this. It pains them more. Like my son now, he's not a toddler, but like I said, you need to watch those kids. Like my son, at times, because I just started giving him a phone to use, right? And before he started using that phone, the dad told him, go come up with a list of the do's and don'ts before we give you this phone, right? So he's the one that made his list. We didn't say you will not do this. He wrote a long list. In fact, when he brought it, even when I laughed, as in, Dada, this is really funny. You see your son. The list he brought, that, okay, this is the do's, this is the don'ts, right? And I tell you, when he misbehaves, just go and bring that list. You wrote it yourself now. We didn't force you to write that list. You wrote it from your heart. When he misbehaves, I'll just, okay, number 10, you've actually defaulted. Bring your phone. You understand? So you have to watch a child, because you do, like a lot of we parents, we do things by enforcing them. Okay, because you did this, I'm going to do this. Study that child, know what that child likes, know what that child does not like. Those are the things to use to discipline them. I know the part of the world we came from, we are so quick to spanking a child. At times it might be necessary a little bit, but not in this part of the world. Right? But I know what really worked for me when I was a child. I can stomach any cane. Me, I be tomboy. So, but what I know I don't like was people talking to me to correct me. It pains me more. Unfortunately, that's the same thing that worked for my first child. My first child hates to be corrected, as in discipline, to be, to be spoken with. It gets to her more. And the last one, that one does not like cane. Though I don't beat them any longer, but that one, anytime you go and meet your daddy, when he feels the daddy wants to beat her, she'll be very, very scared. So toddlers, watch your child. Discipline them with what they like to do best. And I know it's centered that every child likes TV. I know that one. So you can say, because you did this today, right? Your screen time has been reduced to 20 minutes. It's been reduced to 5 minutes for this week. Things like that gets to them more, right? Then at times you might something that the child is looking up for that you want to buy for them. Okay, you can just say, okay, because of that, I already promised to give you this, but because you did this, it looks like we're going to suspend giving you this unless you sit up. There are different ways. There are kids. It must not be a strict measure, very strict measure, but just study that child. And like I said, when you are disciplining a child, make sure you are not indulging that child. I keep saying that because a lot of people indulge toddlers, and that might go a negative impact on them in future. Thank you.
Thank you so much, I really like that. Don't indulge them, right? And when I look at the book and what it provides, it talks about decoding. So even sometimes, especially if it's a situation that's happening, try and decode what's going on here. Does my child need love from me in this moment, or should I bring discipline into this, right? And then seek to diffuse based on what your best judgment of the situation is in that time. Thank you. And don't indulge them. Do not indulge them. So one other question that I want to, and I'll maybe have you start with that one, because this one, even me personally, personally, it's hanging over my head. How do you approach the subject of sex with your children? How much do you share? My child has just randomly asked me, "What is this?" And I'm like, how do I? And I really was struggling. What? How much should I share? What should I say? So please, how much will you share? Mine is not a teenager yet. I don't even know how they came across the topic, but
Oh my
yeah,
God. Ah, I don't know. I have the same challenge as you have. It's as if it was like the thing was there. You need to have this cover, and I kept on asking, "How now? How do I have this?" I pushed it to their father at some point, right? And although I won't say he has done because I still chastise him. But have you had this conversation now that we are in high school? There's this girlfriend and boyfriend, whatever, right? But that's boy talk one. But what I've done myself um in my growing up to match the mother of a teenager in this age, as it were, what I've come to see is in those times when we are able to talk, so we have built a space where it's okay, it's free for us to talk. So I'm thankful for that. Before now, we probably won't talk, but now that he knows he can, there's a safe space. We can talk where I won't judge, right? I'm just going to listen. I'm not going to shout. I won't do the and all of that. So it gives room for us to have a proper conversation where I know he's listening. There's the feedback. Can even come back to tell me this is the inside scoop, what eventually happened, that sort of thing, which I'm thankful for and we'll probably build on. But I didn't just get here. I don't know. It happened somehow. But anyways, what has happened is the kind of discussion that we've had is to somewhat have an understanding of what his own understanding of what's because they teach them in school, right? They've learned, they know. Right? So I came up from the point of not assuming that he doesn't know anything. So you guys know. All right. So tell me in our banter. So what do you know? What does we start from the point of boyfriend, girlfriend? What is a boyfriend? What does it mean to have a girlfriend in this instance? And then he explained to me what it is. So I sought to now change, having an understanding of what he knows, and now try to change that or more like bring my own understanding of what it should be and citing Bible verses, backing it up with examples. Do you understand? And painting consequences of what could have happened if it's not that way. So, for instance, now, say it was in year 8. What does a girlfriend-boyfriend relationship mean to you? What does it mean to you in school? You defined it, maybe they hold hands or something. I'm like, oh, that shouldn't be at that age. You guys don't need that sort of relationship. What you should be thinking about is studying together, thinking of how your life will be good together, taking assignments together, going to the library. I was like, oh, that's true. And I painted consequences of if it went further, if it was different from that, what it could be. You could end up having a baby I was like, no, 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 no. So like we had that, so we understood, we walked through it together. And then we still had this type of conversation again now that he's in high school and he's 14 years old. It's different again. And recently he told me the definition of what they are. I'm sure he had forgotten what he told me what he was before. The definition he's giving me now is even still different. But I still went back to what my definition should be. And he agreed. He was like, yeah, that's true. Nobody wants. Do you understand? So that's my own way. And then I've been there where my husband had the conversation with him about, because we are in this environment, white girls, the minute they shout, you could end up in prison for something you probably even didn't mean to do. So you know, if they say no, even if it's nothing, like he painted the very weird picture of once you say no, is no, else you end up like paint the consequences and then you understand. So the way that's the kind of conversation that has happened as it is now. So me enforcing what I believe the definition of the kind of relationship you should have now should be, right? What I expect you to be, as if you are saying, okay, I have a girlfriend. What does it even mean? I have a girlfriend. I have, what is it? Define it. So in that definition, I constantly try to change or at least enforce what I believe it should be at this age, and then paint the consequences of what it could be, and they know. He explains it and all of that. So with that, you cannot believe that it will be totally okay, right? you back it up with prayers and you follow it up with being sensitive, and even despite that talk, you still watch them. You put in things in place that ensure that they don't get carried away. Like all of your devices, for instance, now you can't cut off the fact that it's the age we are. I didn't give them devices for so long, but now he's in high school. I had to pack, and it was painful, but but we had to put things in place. So there's this Google Family thing. You can monitor what it is that he's doing. You can monitor wherever he is. You monitor whatever app that he has gone on. Like to that nitty gritty, he has screen time. He knows when his screen time is. So he has, there are boundaries. Yeah, that's the word. There, you can't go on social media. Do you understand? You don't have Snapchat. You know, although because it's on Google Link, it goes means within the house. The network has been set up in such a way that you cannot install Snapchat while you're at home. Your phone, no phone here can access Snapchat. And my husband had to invest in things to do, and we agreed. We all know, everybody knows that is the rule. It won't happen. But because he still wants chapter. The minute he leaves the house and he gets to, he probably install it. But I get a message that says he installed chapter, and we would have a conversation. Why are you? You're not supposed to say, you know. He said, I know. But the point is, you shouldn't. Then it cuts the. So you put those things. You set the boundaries. You have those things there in place, right? You let them know what the consequences are. What does it mean to have sex in this instance? What does it mean to have a relationship? What leads to those things? What are the consequences? So I believe with that, we are still there. It's a work in progress. I can't tell you what the result is as it is, because we are still there, right? Yeah. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a work in progress, but at least it's a good place to start, which is, seek to even know what they know and then build on that, course correct anything else that doesn't line up. And I like they emphasize the consequences. Thank you so much. Because of time, we'll just take this one last one and see, Tayo, I'll let you have that one because I like the question. It's a question a friend of mine and I even had, so much so that we thought we should take it to Instagram Live and have a conversation around it. Should you be your kid's friend? Or is being a parent a different role? And that will be the last question that we're going to have for today. So, should you be your kid's friend, or is there a different? Should we keep it separate? I'm a parent. I'm not a friend. We're not doing friendship.
To that question, I would say you must. The word is you must. You must be your child's friend, because that's the only thing that makes them open up to you. And like I said, I believe at times maybe the reason why the kids kind of look up onto us is that relationship between me and their dad. We're more friends and they see it. And my husband is someone that is very open. He's very social. He discusses a lot with the kids. You can see, I also do, but he's someone that, in fact, in my own case, I can get angry, I can shout. He comes to their level. It's not about shouting. He always tells me it's not about shouting. You have to come to this children's level. And I see it really works. Like my last child, she told me kind of, she's kind of, she's close to me, right? Because she feels anything with mommy, she gets. In fact, my other children, because normally one thing you shouldn't do, you must never show your child that one is a preferred child. But because she's last, they always feel, this is mommy's pet. In as much as I don't show it, you understand? But she relates with, the kids relate with us very well. And one thing my husband always says, you need to come to their level. Because at times, when I say no, it's just no. Just, my voice could be like firm no. But that relationship you have with them because they are your friends, that's what makes them open up to you. Like their dad now, they open up to him just the same way they open up to me. But at times, because mommy, like Tito will come and ask mommy, as in when mommy you go and ask the dad, can I take this? That one will say, go and meet your mom. Then she will say, mommy will say no, that kind of thing. She say, ask your mom first. So that relationship, you need to like talk to them, be on their level. Because it's only when you be on the children's level that a lot of things that is happening to them, they will open up to you. And I think that was why I was fortunate. Most of the time when something wants to happen, my kids kind of tell me before, or they tell their dad. If they can't come, they go to their dad. Because we relate in that friendship. In fact, at times, even me, when I sit and look at myself as a parent or my husband, I'm like, wow, we're too playful. We're just too playful, In a way, it might look like a disadvantage because at times, even you see my kids, the way they are free with us, they might come in with their friends and come and knock our door and say, oh, mommy, my friend wants to greet you. Or daddy, both of us are in the room. Daddy, my friend wants to greet you. It's to that limit where that, even at times, my kids would have taken permission for their friends. Okay, you can follow before they even tell us. And my dad the dad be like, you have to tell us first. We're that close. Because at times you need to, some things you do, you might need to stop because your friends too might have that privilege and be doing it. So at times we like set that boundary when now as a parent, not because we joke with you too much. Don't take it. How will I say? Don't kind of like leveraging on it and think this is the normal way to do things. There's some things you have to tell your parents first before you take decision. You can't just say, you have to do this because I know my daddy 100% will say yes. At times you need to ask. We are first your parents before we even became your friends. So they must note that we're once your parents before we became your friends. So don't take it to that access we gave to you guys. Don't misuse that opportunity. Don't say because daddy can take this, you always smile and say anything. If I remember doing not Christmas Carol, there was one program we had, and they were like say high five to everybody in church, and next thing Nifemi did high five, and did her hands like this so that our hands missed, and I didn't take it easy as in what rubbish outside, what is that? And he did the same thing to the dad, which I didn't even know. But of course, immediately when she did that to me, like when I had chance in the church, and I told the dad that, do you know what Nifemi did? That it's not funny to me. I didn't find it funny. He was like, he didn't even complain because he's not mad to him. I need to, he did the same thing to him, all right? So fine, I felt better because I felt maybe you were rude to me, but it wasn't a case of that. It's just because she was being, she's too used to us. And I don't like to, when I told my husband before we got home, my husband lectured her on some things she should not be doing. That don't think because we are too friendly with you guys, you take it to that is rude. That look at your mom now, she got offended because of that. It's rude. So at times you need to set boundary as a parent and also as a friend. So even when you are being nice to them, because nice to them is good, it makes them open up. But at the same time, they should not forget that you are actually their parents before they became your friends. So you must make sure that once they are being your friend, they should note that you are still a father or a mother, that will discipline them when they misbehave. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yes, we can be friends with our children. It enables them open up to us, but most importantly, we must set the boundaries. We are first parents before we are children. We must set that boundary, even though we are friends with them, because that allows them open up to us and come to us. Thank you so much, Auntie Tayo and Auntie Remy. Thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge with us and sharing your time with us. I know we are 10 minutes past our normal time, but I want to say a very, very, very big thank you. And at this point in time, we are just going to close now. For our in-house members, unfortunately, we will not be able to take an action point this month just because of the time, but we'll continue on our Telegram chat and we can proceed from there. Thank you so much, and God bless. It's really been an exciting time, and I can say for myself personally, I've learned a lot, and hoping to put those things in practice. And I hope for everyone out here as well, we'll be able to take what we've learned from here and carry it on. Looking to see you ladies again next month, and Merry Christmas. Thank you again, everyone. Bye.
Thank you all. Merry Christmas.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.